Welcome to the Natural Parents Podcast, where we will cover all things faith, health, family, and wealth through a biblical perspective of putting things in life that matter most back into order. We're reminded in Matthew 6:33, where Jesus said, "But seek first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, and all of these things will be added unto you." Join us each week as we focus on what truly matters most in this life and passing those values on to the next generation. This is the Natural Parents Podcast with Ryan and Abby Hugan.
Am I beautiful? Am I lovable?
Do I have what it takes? Am I enough? These are the questions that every man and woman deal with on a daily basis. I believe they're the core fundamental questions that go deeper than any surface level ideology we could have. And this is what your spouse needs to hear from you more than anything. Men, you have to tell your spouse that she is lovable, she is lovely, and she is beautiful.
And women, you have to tell your spouse that he does have what it takes and that he's doing enough and he's doing a good job. And Hercules.
So why do you think this is? Why do you think we struggle so much in these different concepts? As a couple, even as well as we know each other, how come you think we get off course sometimes?
I think that it's just the world in general. It's easy to just see the narrative that I'm never enough.
Sure.
And I don't have what it takes. And there's always somebody else who's doing more than me, better than me, prettier than me. I mean, you do a workout class at home, and you watch these women who have been working out for years,
Sure.
longer than I've even thought to work out, and look great and are steady and balanced. And it's easy to do. It's just natural for us to compare ourselves, right? Because that's how we see how we are mounting up, is to compare ourselves. And it's just whenever we take that comparison into a negative way and then just start tearing ourselves down over it, that it really gets out of hand. And I think that social media and just life in general like that, we are more connected and see more highlight reels and, all of the things that we've all heard so often, but we internalize it. And so I think we have to be super focused on that. But then there's also, maybe ways that you were raised that you never felt like you were actually ever enough.
Yeah.
And I think that it can also come from that. So it can be a combination as well.
Multiple different facets for sure. I think the idea is one, you said it, comparison, it really is the thief of our joy. I think we have the opportunity to live a very joy-filled life. Joy is totally different than like happiness, right? Always heard happiness is based on our happenings, like what has happened to us in the last 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years, whatever. That can alter how happy you are. But there's a deep-seated joy that could run in your veins, if you will, if you allow it to be, and you look at life differently when that's the case. Unless you're comparing where you're at with where someone else who isn't you, right? We get this and know this, I think, on a different level, maybe than, I don't want to say anybody, but people that I guess in our situation have identical twin daughters, right? And like how hard and how much do we long for them to be who they are, which is so different, right? Like,
yes,
most of the time.
Yes.
There are instances where it's like, they throw us off because it's like, wait, you're more acting like your sister or whatever. Just the thought process anyway there. Not that we say that out loud, but that being said, it's like, how do we, as a couple, navigate that for each other? Like, how can we help each other not compare to one another?
Yeah, and I think just before I get into that, of just, you always want to be the best version of yourself, and you always want to strive for more and do your best, and all of those motivational quotes that you see, you always want to do that. But it's like there's just a fine line of doing that too much to where it's a negative spiral. And so I never want it to be like, oh, good enough or, anything like that.
Sure.
But, I just think that it's important to differentiate between the two. Now ask me your question again.
Well, I think the question is, how do we help each other? How do listeners who have a spouse that is dealing with those fundamental questions, right? So if there's a woman listening and she's thinking about her husband or herself and vice versa, how do we help each other? Like how do you help me know that I am enough and that I am worthy and qualified and
Yeah. Well, I think for starters, if you notice that your spouse is off or just not happy, you kind of got to, if it's your husband, you got to pin him down and make him tell you all his feelings.
Not fundamentally good with words.
No. And so you do that and you're like, but why? But why? But why do you feel like that?
Sure.
And so once you learn what that feeling is for your spouse or that chatter is, then I feel like you can combat it by saying the things that are already on your heart anyway, that we just lack saying a lot of the time.
Sure.
Because life gets busy and everything like that. But then we can be reminded, oh, well, I feel like this. And then when he says these nice things, like, I feel so much better. And so then you can make sure that you do that for your spouse as well and just combat that for them. So learning what their triggers are, what theirs is, and then you can combat that easily.
Yeah. I was just thinking about real life in the sense of this. I'm really getting up there. I'm 33 now.
Mm-hmm. He brought his walker, but it's just by the door.
Yeah. But as things unfolded, I guess, in the weeks after my birthday or whatever, I feel like I was just like, oh, man, I thought it'd be further along than this by now in X, Y, and Z category. Like pretty much just everywhere, right? Like we say faith, health, family, wealth. Yep, all of them, right? Like I just, whatever. And I don't know, it's just whispers of the enemy, whatever it would be, comparison to others ultimately is, like I said, a big issue. But not focusing on my true inherent purpose in this world and where I'm at and the place God has me in this time or whatever. And Abby, you mentioned to me that you said, well, did God put a timeline on the things that you said or whatever? I forget exactly how you said it. I was like, I mean, no. She's like, so could you do it at 34 or 64 or whatever, whatever your life could look like? I was like, yes, and it was very appreciative that you, again, in a cute and funny way. Again, guess what? Ryan's doubting himself here today or tonight before we go to bed. But it's like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just another birthday came by and it was right on the, hopefully that's not my midlife crisis.
Better not be.
Be an issue. But the, concept there is like you were combating that with just a really simple question because you've gotten to know me pretty well. And so, and then vice versa too, like from me to you. I think I oftentimes, I don't think that's negative or anything different or anything like that. I think women, you could compare different ways too, but I just think there's an underlying concept there that, again, the enemy is actually attacking what God would have to say about us, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what we combat with the kids and our daughters. I say all the time, I tell them every night that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, because when some teenage boy tells them that they're not one day, that they're going to be like, well, you're stupid, because I know that that's not true.
My dad says.
Yeah, exactly. Or my heavenly Father says otherwise,
yes.
Right? And I think women, and men all alike, I think every female on the planet is a blood-bought gift, like from God, right? Mm-hmm. Like they are a fearfully and wonderfully made creation and a daughter of the King. Like that's a crazy concept to think about. And most of us and men, our job is to treat our wives that way, right? Because you want to be so adamantly about that and about your wife that anything else that the world could ever say about her, it's just going to stink. Like it's not going to, I don't believe that, right? Or whatever. Now, again, slippery slope, things can sneak in there or whatever, and we want to be equipped. I want to be equipped to combat that for you, but I know that to be true, that I really do believe that we ought to be treating you like the, if I may, princess that you are if you're the daughter of the King. So
Cinderella. That's
right.
What Jennings told me. I was in my yellow jammies last night, and he goes, Cinderella dressed in yellow. I'm like, yep, that's me. But, and I think that because men were created to work and protect and provide, and that's why I think that men just question if they're doing that enough, so
Sure.
it's mostly out of I know that this is my job. Am I doing enough? Am I giving enough? Am I where I should be by now? But whereas women, like, they are the life givers, they're the nurturers, the lovers.
Sure.
And so we are always just like, okay, am I doing enough? Am I cherished enough?
Mom guilt is so real.
Oh my gosh.
It's actually painful.
It's painful.
Where you're like, I'm not even a good mom. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Right.
I don't know. You just hand prepared this meal, or you just did that, or what, right? Like all these different, I mean, you can do anything. It's not just about cooking. I don't want, if a mom likes to, buy dinner from out. You can do that too, and you're still a great mom. It's not
You still
about
fed
that.
them.
It's like, I'm worried that
I
I'm
know.
going to guilt a mom into the way she prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not real. Like, the fact that you love your family, you love your children, that's what actually matters. It's just whatever it is. Again, husbands out there, speak truth to your wife. Tell her, where you see these instances of her God-given ability to nurture and love and care for your family coming through. Oh, champion that for sure.
Yeah, and I really don't feel like any of these are weaknesses. Like, they are just God designed to
Differences.
Yeah, to just, and to point us back to what matters most. And so really, if you want to pivot it and be positive with it, you can hear those things and just be like, oh, you know what? Let me just status check real quick. Do I have my priorities straight? Am I giving it my all in this? Is there a different area that I feel led to change or do more in, whatever that needs to look like? Because I really believe that you could also turn it into a positive and just assess the situation a little bit.
Sure. Well, again, so much of a theme lately has been the spiritual attack on the family unit, right? We talk about that all the time, and just the darkness creeping into the minds of a godly, fearing man and or woman or family. But I think the way that the enemy likes to twist this in a man's life is just, like I said, that comparison and not thinking you're enough, right? But then we have to be able to combat that with Scripture. And something that I heard once, and I'll never forget it, and then I always try to reiterate it to my son, Jennings. I'll say to him, son, like just last night I did this, laying in bed. I said, buddy, I'm proud of you. And he was like, oh, thanks. Why? I said, because you're my son. Now, I don't mean that to be like, hey, I'm what's worthy here. I just mean that you've met the qualification. Like, that is enough. You have earned my love, and there's nothing you could ever do to unearn my love. And that's what the Bible says about us, men, in relation to our Heavenly Father. Now, our earthly father may or may not have exuded those personality traits very well. However, it is just so true. And the beautiful relationship that Jesus has with his Heavenly Father is laying that out for both men and women to be able to see, and then see ourselves in and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, that's the only qualification that there is that you're my son. And God says that about all of us men, is like, you're my son. Like, and then best part ever, go into the book of Matthew. I think it's end of chapter 3, chapter 4, somewhere right in there. It's when Jesus is being baptized. The heavens open up. There's an audible voice of God, and God says, behold, my son, in whom I am well pleased. To this point in time, Jesus had lived 30 years, but relative to his earthly ministry, had done nothing yet, right? And so God is giving the blessing to his earthly son, right? Where he says, that's it. All he's doing is he exists. He's here. I'm pleased with this son of mine. And God feels that way about each and every one of us. But I think we as earthly fathers, it's our job to help our sons feel that way, to combat this for the next generation. So much of what we're trying to do, so I always joke and say, we're just messed up people trying not to mess up people too bad, our little people. But it's like learning through those instances of like, okay, this is somewhere that I can do that and combat that for our son. How can we, how can moms also do that for daughters and things like that? Like, because of the way the enemy will twist it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's not to make them, overly proud of themselves, but it's just to help eliminate a little bit of that chatter that may sneak in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and there's instances of this too in, like, even within Scripture. I think one of the most, obviously, the poetic and amazing language of, like, Song of Solomon. And, again, these are just words that God gave his people to write down, right? Like, God isn't actually writing this down in heaven and paper airplaning it down to us or anything, right? It's biblically inspired. The Bible, the canonized scriptures are, inspired by God, right? And so when we look at the Song of Solomon and how that relationship plays out, there's a lot of doubt in the Shulamite woman's voice when she's kind of thinking and talking about herself. And Solomon does such a good job of telling her all about how really beautiful she is and what he loves about her and how he's attracted, and that she is his standard for beauty, right? And I think us men can do that and should do that for our wives.
Yeah, and same for us to you. We need to be that voice of reason, and, we just need to be the voice of truth for each other in marriage and family, for our kids, and even for your best friends. You can even do it there too. But I really think that it is so intimate whenever you can
Sure.
combat that and just speak truth
Sure.
into your spouse and family.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's extremely important that we do it and set it the example in our marriage for our children, because I want our kids to see a good, functionally God-directed marriage. But I also want to speak such truth to them that when the enemy lies, they don't believe it, because he's coming with the lies for sure.
Yes. And, there's even going to be people in their life that maybe don't treat them right. It's kind of, it's challenging to think about that, thankfully I have you, but it's like before that, who is your sound voice?
Yep.
If not, because you grow up and you leave the house and you do more things outside the house. And so who is that sound voice that's going to speak that truth and light back into you? And so just equipping them to be able to determine what friends are speaking life and who aren't, and who do I believe and what do I listen to whenever mom and dad aren't right there to be like, you're so awesome,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. That's a thing. I hear it. I think we've had this conversation before, and we talk about it, yes, in our relationship, but then also like joking with Jennings and how you will coddle him. Mm-hmm. Like we hear that, right? Like oftentimes wives will say that, well, I'm not going to coddle him, right? Like that's his mom's job. That's what his mom did. And so many times that's the instance. And there's something like very true about that, where moms and their boys, they can do no wrong, right? And then
he can do
the spouse,
no wrong.
like dynamic, how does that work from your perspective? Like,
all I know is that my baby boy can crawl up in my lap and I will coddle him when he is 33.
About me, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You.
Jennings can do no wrong. I can definitely do wrong.
Yeah, and then I'm like, I'm not your mom, but
right.
I'm like, I'm raising a boy that is going to expect, but that's okay. And I think it makes me view you differently a little bit.
Thanks.
Like, you do. Come here.
Well, I think there's something in the original, again, if you go to the fall in chapter 3, the exact terminology is going to be translation based, but there's this aspect where God says, to the woman, your desire will be for your husband, and then is something to the effect like he will rule over you, right? And it's this weird dynamic, and we don't like that terminology, especially in modern day terms. We need to look, do a word study on that, actually assess what it means, and it's just like this dynamic that if not careful, our relationships can become this kind of nitpicky at each other type of a thing. Like if we're not constantly aware of it, right? Where you offer help to me when I'm just wanting to like sulk or vice versa, right? And there's this concept where it's like, what are you laughing at?
Nothing.
Tell me.
No.
You got to.
The other day I needed help, but it wasn't time to help, so I had to make a list.
Oh, yeah.
So you're ready for help, and then I had to pull up my list.
See,
and I'm like, okay, now that you're ready, here we go.
Yeah, I was just trying to sulk in my issues.
But it's taken me
here we
15 years to learn that. So
maybe the first time that's happened yet. So
I think growth happened.
But vice versa too, right? Because oftentimes I want to solve problems and you just want to tell me all of them and let me hear them, right? And so I think there's an aspect of that we have to be mindful of and careful of, but also just that, like the woman, again, the terminology that God used when he set it up was that he wanted to find a helper suitable for Adam, right? And so Adam is first creation. That Adam is actually the Ahadam is the Hebrew for man, okay? So we just say Adam because that's a translation that we use in the English term, but it's like Adam and Eve, right? First man, first woman that God created. God was saying, all right, we need to find a helper. Put Adam to work, which, okay, men, just side note, God made work. It can't be that bad. Let's not complain about it, okay? We have a job to do on this earth. You were made for a purpose and on purpose. Let's go do our work. Let's just do it aligned in arm, hand in hand with God, right? Let's advance the kingdom. Let's use whatever God's given us as a job, as a place to work, as an income stream, because we need that to provide for our family. Let's go do that. Let's provide. Let's protect. Let's prophesy. Let's be that element for our family. So God may work. It can't be that bad. Literally before the fall of man, Adam was working with God, right? So that's the instance. Are we taking God into the workplace, right? So soapbox moment there. But if we look at this and we set it up and we think about how it was set up, God said, let me find a helper suitable for Adam. And Adam goes through all the different animals, all of creation that God made, and said, nobody here. God says, okay, well, go to sleep. Let me take a rib out. Let me make you a helper, right? And this concept before the fall was made to be that Adam and Eve were side by side along with God. There's literal terminology in Genesis that they were walking in the garden with God. Like, it's crazy to think about, but that's happening. That's the ideal. Okay, so if anything in our marriage is happening that's different than that, if somehow we think, I've heard that, and I think it's neat, is all behind every good man is a woman, and I like that, but I love, like, by my side way more, because that's what God had in mind when it was said. It wasn't that one was over another. There was no lordship or, submission in the way that we think about submission. When we think about submission, we think about reverence for one another. Mm-hmm. Is that you were created by God for me, I was created by God for you, and we're supposed to do this together, mm-hmm. right? And so, again, if we look at this and we think of that terminology of the helper, sometimes you're just trying to help me, and I perceive it since the fall as like nagging, or you're just trying to fix me, or you don't think I'm any good. What am I, poison? As your nephew used to say, like all these things. Like, it's just like I take it and internalize it and make it out to be this thing, and we don't want to do that in our relationships, either spouse to one another.
Right. And so I just think it's important to even pay attention to that as well whenever we are going into this, of, hearing what that voice is saying, combating that, but combating it the right time, the right way. So as you go into this week, just talk to your spouse about what it is that, you're feeling and what they're feeling, and just be the one to then remind them that they are fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and that you're loved and you're doing good and everything is great.
And husbands, your wife should never question that you think that she's the most beautiful standard of beauty ever to walk this earth. If she has any other question than that, start working on fixing it right now. Who knows if you were made for such a time as this? I believe whether you're a parent, an entrepreneur, a business owner, just a human being on the other side of this audio cast, I believe that you were made for a purpose, on purpose. And my heart's desire is to see you fulfill every aspect of that.
Yeah. And so, sometimes we can ask ourselves, is our role as a parent or an entrepreneur, is that part of God's bigger plan?
Yeah. It can feel daunting at times. Mm-hmm. You're wiping another butt or snotty nose or both. Who knows, right?
While cooking.
While you're cooking. Oh, that's delicious. No, it's like this concept that we can get so lost in the weeds and inundated of the day-to-day life. You just feel like, does any of it count for anything? Mm-hmm. We were talking about that recently, you and I, about where it's just like, oh, does any of this even matter?
Yeah.
And that's applicable, right? To us, we were talking specifically about the nitty-gritty instances of trying to do the daily grind, if you will, of business. And you have to have these incremental steps that you're taking that no one sees happening until, right, it's that concept of like overnight success in just under 10 years, right? It's like, well, yeah, it's like you never watched or never were there when all this stuff behind the scenes was happening until then, boom, one day somebody, you're quote unquote famous in that world or whatever the case might be. When you're in that phase of it, be it entrepreneurship, business owner, or parent, or all of the above, for many of our listeners, it's like, does it count for anything? Does it matter? Is this really what God wants for me in my life? Speak to that.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of challenges and attacks that we can experience with that. It's like the tug of war of, do I give more to my kids or my business? Am I doing the right things? Am I harmonizing? Yeah. Or am I balancing?
Sure.
And what one's the right one? And just like the pressure with identity, that we've talked about, like, am I loved? Am I seen? Am I enough? Am I worthy of this? But then also the enemy's lie starts to chime in and says that you have to choose between being a good parent or being a successful entrepreneur. And it's like, all of these things can come in combat, and then you're like, is this even worth anything? Is right? Did I hear you right? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because this feels really, really hard.
Sure.
And unfruitful and unsupported and all of different things. And it's like, yeah.
Two things I thought of when you said that. One is that somebody asked me one time very recently, they said, how do you know if you're like on the right path for what God is willing for your life? And my very quick, I was actually surprised. I had a lot of time to think about it. But I said, one word, opposition. And she just kind of looked at me like, what? I was like, yeah, like if I feel like there's resistance to me actually accomplishing the task, then I almost to a fault affirm that to be the right path that I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
Our kid's favorite song right now is Lemonade,
Yes.
with Forrest Frank. And it's like, if life is always easy, you're probably doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there are so many times in life, and I've referenced, for such a time as this, it's a famous biblical quote, if you will, from Mordecai to his cousin, Queen Esther, that says, like, maybe this is the moment that you were created for, right here, right now. And I think we're all faced with those, be it being parents, being entrepreneurs, business owners, or whatever that looks like. There are instances in our life where we all come to a crossroads that says, wait a second, this is not going to be an easy decision to make. God, lead me through this. And I think if we default back to that, I think that's what we're actually supposed to do. And then also help our children see and live that out, like how we do it.
Yeah. And I think, just being on mission together as a family, like if you are an entrepreneur and you have a family, just making sure that both business and parenting align for that purpose, and
Sure.
making sure that your kids, if they're of age enough to understand the mission and the vision, that they are on that with you, because that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that you get to bring your kids alongside of you and share in that mission and vision, because you hope that one day they continue it on, right? It's not, we talk about how anything is not, there's no destination. It's just a journey, and it continues and continues. And so being on that journey with your family, doing the things that you feel called to do,
Sure.
You want that journey to continue, right? You don't want it to end with you.
Yeah. You said this a second ago. I said there's two things that just reminded me of the other one. Pretty famous book, came out quite a few years ago, but it was like the 10X rule. It was a Grant Cardone book. And he says in there somewhere, sometimes I'll read a whole book and I'll get like one nugget out of it. Or sometimes I'll read halfway into a book and I'll get something and apply it and be like, wow, that's the whole thing I was looking for. And I put that book back down and don't pick it up, or I'll read it, the rest of it later. I don't know, something to that effect. But one thing that sticks out, probably a very minor concept in that book, was that he said, why can't I be both? Like, people are telling me you can't be a good dad, a good husband, and a successful entrepreneur, right? And he's worth, a lot of money, and that's cool. And money, I don't know if it's his Lord or anything of that nature, but we don't want money to be our Lord or anything. But I'm just saying, it's like, if God's put me in this time, he's put this thing on my heart to go and create a business, go and create value in the marketplace. But he's also given me this family to love, and you're a mom and or a dad or whatever, listening to this. Not that you could be both. What I mean is that maybe you're listening to this together as mom and dad and or dad.
I heard Ryan say that.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm saying is that you can, I believe, actually do it all if God is at the helm, leading you into whatever it is that you're actively pursuing. And I really do believe we have an opportunity to do this pretty well. We're sitting in the podcast studio right now. Our kiddos are hanging out just outside the door. They're begging to come in. They want to be on the podcast. Yeah. So heads up, they might be here with us on a future episode, but interviewing us, or should we interview them? I don't know. But they, they come with us. This is life together. They get to see the purpose that God's called us towards in this thing that we're building, and be a part of it with us, which I love.
Yeah. And I mean, just like that, entrepreneurship, it does provide, freedom, resources, sleepless nights,
headaches.
In the same with parenting. It's, it's all just discipleship and in raising kids to know what it's like to go after something that you feel called to, and not just be stuck in the mundane of life and think that you just have to do the next thing in front of you that's handed to you.
Sure.
But, to think, the world's a blank canvas. Life is a blank canvas, and I can structure it to look like what it needs to look like. If something's not working for our family, we change it.
Is a beautiful aspect of it. And some people, you might not be there yet. You might not have that desire on your heart to do that. And that's okay. But just think of it in your parenting journey in the same way. If there's something you don't like, you have the power to change it. You're the boss. You know what I'm saying? Like, in that sense, inside your home. And so, really take some time to assess that and say, what do we like? I think there's a lot of times because of maybe be it our passions or our heart's desires, whatever, right? We come into this, we're married, we're just pursuing and we're doing life together, and that's cool. And we got a couple kids, and now they're kind of running our life, and we're at the sports fields, and we're over here, and we're doing this event, and be it, it could be things from 4-H to soccer to, riding horses, anything, right? It could be anything that starts to run our life. We're like, hold on a second. I've talked to so many parents that feel that way. It's like, you're in control of that, right? Like you could choose to do that differently. And if you want to prioritize your life in such a way for a greater good than what you feel like you're currently doing right now, you can do that, be it in business or in parenting or both.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're changing something, like talking to your kids about that too, because they'll be excited to be part of that change as well. And just being able to be alongside of you no matter what that is.
Sure. I think one of the main things that people actually, the reason why they don't is they're afraid to fail in the instance of it. Again, like I feel like I'm supposed to start a business, or I feel like I'm supposed to not sign this kiddo up for that sporting event, or again, whatever it is. Like, and there's this inter dialogue that happens, is like fear of missing out, fear of failure, fear of something. And I just want to speak against that, right? Like I think if you're fearful of something that's not of the Lord, right? Like right. There's no way you can fail. There's no way it could be the wrong thing if you feel like God is leading you to that. So just hear my voice in this and saying, like, my heart's desire for you is to just be led by where God wants you to go in life. Pray and ask for him to guide you in that direction. And I promise you, he'll answer it.
Yeah. And, there's a couple of things that come to mind when you talk about that. For one, you can't care about what anybody else thinks right. about the decisions that you're making if you know that they are the correct ones for you and your family. But then there's also that, say that you start a business that you know that you are led to start and it doesn't work out. Does that mean you're a failure? No. It means that you learned something within there that is only going to set you up for success or to be stronger and better when you're called to do something different. And I just think that a lot of times we think, oh my gosh, it was a failure, it was a bust, it didn't go anywhere. And people who maybe aren't entrepreneurs or don't view things the same way are the ones that are saying that.
Sure.
But that is so not true. And it's, it's unfortunate that those people who are those people saying that are going to miss out on the true life lessons that you get whenever you do stick your neck out and try, whenever you do the hard things, and allowing that to then set you up for more success later.
Well, I think it's almost like what you just said made me think of this. There's this notion outside or maybe just on the fence of Christianity, right? Where people are like, well, if I follow Jesus, I'm going to have to live this boring, go to church life that's just like
wave at your neighbor.
What? Yeah, exactly. On your way to church on Sunday, like all this stuff is just like, it's a weird concept to think about. But when you make the choice to make Jesus Lord of your life, you live with this aspect of freedom like anything you've ever had before. And so you feel as though, this is speaking from example's sake or from experience, is that, okay, I really do feel like God's calling me into this thing. That might be uncomfortable. We might have to work through some stuff mentally, like you said, some sleepless nights or whatever. But there's just this freedom in knowing that I am so certain that God is calling me towards this. Like, then it's going to be whatever God wants it to be. And it's just like this heavy sigh of relief of like, you know what? It's not up to me to carry that burden, right? God's calling me into it. It's going to be a blessing to me in some way, some shape, some form. And again, let's look at our parenting like that. Let's look at our business ventures like that. Let's just look at if we're in a workplace environment right now, like where and what does God want me to do on this? Ask him for it. And then also listen, right? I promise you he'll answer whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing. And it comes with such a freedom and such a fun life that words can't explain.
Yeah. And really life is too short to be doing anything other than what you're called to do.
Right.
It's not just something to be comfortable and sit back and just take it day by day. It really isn't that. And you have to live boldly and on purpose in doing what you are called to do so that then your kids continue that as well.
Sure. I'm going to speak cautiously here because I don't want y'all to blame me for one thing going one way or another, but it's like, I've said this before. It's like, if I didn't enjoy doing this, I was just talking to somebody the other day, adjusting in my office, taking care of people. I said, if I didn't enjoy doing this, like, I wouldn't do it. Like, life, you said it, is too short. Like, don't waste one more second of your life doing something that you don't fully enjoy and love and feel called to do. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's starting a business, if it's taking a different job, if it's pursuing ministry, if it's doing like anything, I promise you, you will live such a more full life, even if it's with less, like material things.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. We're come to a crossroads in life where it's like, oh, are we going to do this or that? It's like, well, you know what? If that's the will of God for our life, to live in a box on the street, I don't think it is, then so be it. I would rather be there in the box on the side of the street, inside the will of God for my life, than in, some, high-rise mansion up in New York City. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, whatever it's supposed to be, if you're genuinely living that Spirit-led life and you trust that God is leading you for a purpose, all you have to do is take those steps of faith, and I promise He'll bless the journey that you're on.
Yeah, and I think just a good question to reflect on this week is, where is God leading you, your family, your business for such a time as this?
Amen. That's my prayer for y'all. Take some time to think about it, pray about it, and listen.
As parents, we love finding natural ways for our family to feel their best, and that is why we chose Llama. They make genuine Baltic amber jewelry for both kids and adults, known for its soothing and grounding properties. For little ones, it's a beautiful natural option to help with teething and inflammation, and for adults, it can help ease tension and bring a sense of calm throughout the day. Each piece is handcrafted from authentic Baltic amber. It's never plastic, never imitation, just simple, natural comfort that fits your lifestyle. Check out the link in our description to shop Llama, natural comfort for the whole family.
Don't you feel like some days life goes better than others?
Yeah, there are definitely some days you're like, oh my gosh, I finally got it. I hacked the code. And then other days you're like, what happened? Everything's falling in. Nothing works. It's never going to work. And today was a good day, besides for children.
Sometimes it's like both of those things in the same day.
Yes. Yeah, this morning I was like, this is it. We've done it. We've done it. And it's going so well. And then it was like, because today was day one of homeschool, or back into the year.
Yeah.
And I created a schedule, and everybody had stations, one-on-one time with mom, and yodel player listening to, today was the States, but listening to something. And then there was one with a learning app. And so I'm like, okay, everybody has their stations. I was like, Jennings is going to want to go first with mom. Guaranteed. Got it in the bag. Like, it's going to be smooth sailing. No. I'm like, every week we're going to rotate who gets to go first with mom, like who gets to do the yodel first and all of these things. I'm like, Jennings, today you're first with mom. Tears.
I wanted to do the app first.
Yeah, you wanted to do the app first. And I'm like, I just knew you'd want to have me first. Like, that was, so it was already off to a rocky start. But all in all, went really, really well. Everybody did their rotations. Everybody did exceptionally well. And I just feel like when they have that one-on-one time, and it won't always be like that, but for now, it's what I think is going to work really well. And just waking up, having that routine, knowing we're doing that. I created a fun Spotify playlist. Brian cringes when I use Spotify, but I don't know how to create a playlist.
Are you guys Spotify? I mean, you might be listening to this on Spotify, so you might be Spotify first. But I am a Pandora for music kind of person.
I am too, but Spotify, I know how to make playlists. I don't know if you can do that on Pandora or not, but I don't know how to do it on Spotify. Anywho's, that big house, like that song, like we created this playlist. And so like when you hear that music, it means it's time to do I call it morning glory time.
It went well.
It went well. And then,
some days go well.
Yeah. And then it was like, once school was over, for some reason, everybody had tears. Mom had tears.
There was a moment of not well.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's it. I think I make the joke to start this podcast. It's all, get your life in order. We're going to help you, all this kind of stuff, because sometimes we get concerned about that. Like, not to overstate this, but hey, we don't want to say we've got it all figured out. We just want to deepen a conversation around figuring it out together. We're a family. We're a couple that, yes, we
primarily love Jesus, first and foremost. That's where we try to operate every day from. Secondly, we care about natural health. And thirdly, we're entrepreneurs and we love small business and figuring that out and providing a value to the marketplace and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a really good thing. But life, I think, goes best when we have it in the proper order. And sometimes those days, I think if we really started to dissect it, like a day like today, that was just, for the most part, to this point in time, went exceptionally well, was because we put our own priorities, the core values we hold for our family, into order and started checking those boxes right from the gates. And some days don't go that well.
No, but at the same time, we can chalk it up to, oh, well, it didn't go so well because the kids, kind of cried and were bickering and everything like that. But that just happens, and kids are kids. And really, if you want to find the good in it, it was that they felt comfortable to express their feelings. I was able to be there for them and be home with them, and all of that. So you can definitely find good, and it may have been hard on mom and dad, but
Sure.
It was also good. And so, just like the Faith, Health, Family, and Wealth, it was just like we were through all of that, and we had loved on our home, and I call it loving our home whenever we have a daily task of cleaning it, whatever our focus is.
Sheets.
Yeah, Mondays are wash sheets and vacuum our rooms really well and underneath our beds and all of that. And so it's like before lunchtime, our sheets were back on our bed, our rooms were vacuumed, homeschool was done. We were reading aloud our book while our lunch was warming in the oven. And so it was so good. And then we were able to, bribe them with going to
their friend's house so that we could come and do this piece.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to talk about primarily, is it's like we have set this, or we have found this rhythm and flow that works best for our family. We've brought it forth with the pillars of the natural parents, being faith, health, family, and then wealth. Like, when our days start off right and we're able to put our own priorities into proper order, the day just goes so much better. And so that's all I'm encouraging you guys towards today is doing that, is saying, hey, maybe I need to come up with some sort of a morning routine.
Yeah.
I actually, Abby makes the bed all the time. I'm not a bed maker fan, so she finds that to be a priority. But she also tried to copy my outfit today. So
hey, who wore it better?
You didn't. You win. That's why I'm jealous. That's why I actually wrote it. But I am not, a make your bed person and all this kind of thing. So it's like, I'm not saying there's this $1 million morning routine that everybody has to do. If you're not doing that particular order of life, you're failing. It's just figure out what works well for you. And so for us and our family, and I know a lot of you guys that listen, it's that the day goes better when we put God first. We put our faith as a priority, and we wake up early and we have time for that. We take our health seriously. We're eating really good foods. We're doing, some maybe grounding or seeing the sunrise in the morning, taking some deep breaths, stretching, working out, whatever that looks like for you on that given day. You don't have to have some 4-hour workout routine to put your health as a priority in the morning, but we're trying to implement these same practices with our kids, right? By having a morning of I think we're up to 7 now. Morning 7.
Yeah.
So just 7 things that they have to do, which are simple things that you probably should do every day, which is like brush your hair, brush your teeth, and then drink water and get minerals in. And so there's 7 things. So they know they have to go down a list of things in their own life. But I think our days go best when we have those first 2 pillars. So that's our faith, health, and then family. We got our family time in today, the priority of the family. I want to talk about this in a second with relative to the Proverbs 31 woman and any of you ladies out there that are listening, balancing that. If there is supposed to be a balance or a harmony between how do I, prioritize my home, but also what I'm feeling called to do over here for work or for purpose or kingdom initiatives or whatever that looks like. How do we do that? But faith, health, family. So we got our homeschool big first day, homeschool day. Ab always takes pictures of the kids, and it's super, super cool to have those memories going into the archive, I guess you could say. And then lastly, it's the wealth or the legacy piece. Is what are we building, not only for God's glory, but for what he would have for our family for generations to come. Mm-hmm. And so often times, I think, especially in Western culture, it's we don't think of anything in our family beyond when our children turn 18 years old. Like I was upset last night because I just feel like we're losing our daughters and they're 7. You know what I mean? You're telling me
He
that.
wasn't just upset. He was boo-hooing.
Yeah.
Rocking one of our daughters.
Ugly,
I mean,
ugly
boo-hoo.
just crying. But I was so glad that our 7-year-old daughter let me rock her to sleep, because hard telling when the last time she let me do that. And it's like everything that we do for them, for our future, for what God's laid on our heart, not just for our own selfish gain, but for pushing back against darkness in this world. And so I think prioritizing life, putting those 4 pillars in order, but then just prioritizing your day is the thing that will help you have the best days on repeat as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, my favorite thing ever are to-do lists and calendar organization. And I mean, I couldn't be,
I love that you love to-do lists.
I couldn't love it any more than I really do. And so, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely the type of person that puts something on my list just to check it off, even if
Yeah.
I've already done it.
Even if
That's
it's
all
already
right.
done. Yeah.
That's okay. But, you know, and it's like, it's not always going to work. It's not, you're not going to create one schedule and that's going to work for you forever. And so giving that permission to yourself to let things change, let things evolve, let things pivot to what works best, because what works today might not work tomorrow, is always going to be the key to creating that success in your day and those wins that add up and gain traction to creating the life that you want and the peace in your home. Because what I'm excited for is that my kids are going to know what to expect and what to expect out of their day and what they put into it, and us. And whenever we take care of all of the responsibilities that we have, then we get a little bit more free time or creative time, or, you know, just those different aspects. And so it's not always going to look one way, but just to keep trying and trying different things and, you know, giving it a good run to see, is this really going to stick and work for our family the best?
Yeah. How do you deal with it as a mom? And then I can try to speak to it as a dad. It's like God's laid something that says passion on your heart, and you feel like, I've gotten all these things done and we've accomplished all the cool things that we've talked about. But then it's like, well, to do this thing, now I have to take a little time away from my kids. Like, how do you navigate that?
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. And there's definitely days that, especially when we're not doing school, like in the summer, we took some time off, even though I kind of want to go year round, but just in the circumstances of life that we were, it was best that I just take a break so that I wasn't continually like, oh no, we're not going to do school today. Oh, this came up. I wanted our kids to know what to expect. Yeah. And so we took, you know, a few months off during the summer. And I just think that now that we have a routine and we have that, I'm able to pursue even more of that because of the schedule that it's laid out. And because before I was just wanting to work on it all day, every day. I'm like, you're hungry, kids? Like, what? You want something from me? You know, like, even though, because I wasn't, right. And it's like I wasn't filling them up, right? And doing my duty that really is my priority. And so it's like when our priorities get miscued, like in our family, if something comes before the other in an order, in the order that we have set as our values, the whole day is off. Nobody's happy. It really is so important to set those family values and priorities, because if not, nobody's happy.
No,
everybody's out of sync. Everybody's on the floor, you know. And so I think that just that is, lay out your priorities, lay out your values. Doesn't have to be faith, health, family, and wealth. I think that's a great place to start personally.
Feel free to swipe and deploy that.
Yes, because it really does hit all the main areas. And whenever you do that and you put that in order, then you can allow yourself to not feel guilty for working on that wealth or passion, or, you know, whatever that may be. I say wealth, it doesn't, you know, passion, whatever that may be, whatever you feel called to do.
Legacy,
Right.
that word, fill it in, and just wealth rhymes with health. So it
Yeah.
kind of rolls off the tongue.
It does.
When we say wealth in our family, we just mean the things that God's laid on our heart to go and create and to pursue unto his glory. And so I think entrepreneurship has the ability to change the world. Doesn't mean everybody in the world should be an entrepreneur. In fact, some people, that just the idea of that freaks them out and wigs you out. But I think it's, for me, hearing you say that, it's almost like, oh, like that's why moms deal with that piece. Like when you you just said it, when you have it all in order and then you get to work on this thing that you really feel like God's laid on your heart to go and do, and we're trying to help other families prioritize and reorder and put God first in their life and then create all these other things. It's weird to me that then we have this issue of like mom guilt or dad guilt. I think I deal with it too if I work too much or anything like that. We deal with this issue where Satan gets in between our ears and starts saying like, well, you're a bad mom. You're not prioritizing your home. Like you're here recording a podcast and your kiddos are, I mean, mind you, off playing with their best friends, having a time, not realizing that you're gone. But somehow Satan's going to work in between your ears and be like, you're a bad mom. And that's crazy. Except it's almost revelatory to me that's like, oh, that means we're definitely doing what we're supposed to be doing. Because if he's going to jump in your ear and start telling you all the reasons why you shouldn't be doing it or why you're a bad mom because you're doing it or whatever, it's almost, to me, I mean, I've had this question and maybe to a fault sometimes. I feel like when I feel spiritual opposition and those types of things, to me, are very much a spiritual warfare, in the sense that when you're on mission for something that you genuinely feel like God's laid on your heart to do, and now all of a sudden you're doubting that thing that he's called you towards, it's like, oh man, Satan really doesn't want you to do that, mom or dad or whoever is listening to this. And so for me, it's this aspect, and it's especially prevalent, it seems, in Christian circles, where I think there's this misnomer that a mom's place or the woman's place, like place, is the home. And if you're doing anything else outside of the home, then somehow you're failing the thing and the gift that is our children and raising them that you've been so well equipped by God to do. Somehow you're failing at that if you're doing anything else beyond that.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy to think about, but that couldn't be true, as so many times, especially in Christian circles, they talk about the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yeah.
And I think the Proverbs 31 woman, I think her priority was her home and her, we talking about that, but it wasn't the only thing that she did.
Right.
Her children rise and call her blessed. After, like, she's been up early, she's been doing some stuff, and then the kiddos get up, right? The home is in order. She says, she goes and she does a business transaction. She buys a field. Like, what is she doing with that? I want to know. Like, what was her plans? What was she looking at through this? All these different things. And it's like, I want to just speak to that to any mom that might be listening, because especially you, I'm speaking directly to you. What I think it'll benefit them is that you do a great job of prioritizing our home. It's okay to go and create something that God's laid on your heart in other areas, or to go and generate, revenue for your house to be able to pay bills and be a partnership with your spouse in that, whatever that looks like, right? Whether it's entrepreneurship, or just holding a really great job that helps to provide for your family. Like, there is legacy in that that's going to supersede anything we could ever fathom. We just have to do our job as mom and dad at prioritizing the things that actually matter.
Yeah, and I think that you're right whenever you said that, Satan will get in between your ears, because there's times and days that I'm like, I can't do both. And I know others that struggle with that. They're like, I'm supposed to be here, and it feels like it's taking away. And I think that it's also just a good point to reflect on, that just means we're out of sync. It's not synced up. We're not harmonizing well, or not prioritizing well. It just all comes back to that, because it is all possible. But it also comes into, how you always hear like, set boundaries and, that kind of thing. Because I do think that if you're saying yes to all of these other things, then your list isn't going to feel accomplishing, feel doable, or just something that you can take action on, because your focus is spread out in other places. And so just giving yourself permission to not do that. And that's definitely hard as a people pleaser.
Oof. Yeah. Speaking of people pleasing, children pleasing, making your kiddos happy. I know we've done the podcast about like life's not fair and all those different things, and sharing that with our kids. But like, what I just had come to my mind is how important, when we're talking about things of priority, we say faith, health, family. Family, we do think of the broader landscape. I think even extended family. I think of husband and wife and then kiddos. But what of that is actually, how much of a priority do we have to make our marriage? Like you and me. We were talking about this. Sometimes there's seasons of life where we get lots of date nights. I say lots, like as in maybe once every other week.
Right.
And then there's seasons of life where it feels like we've been in lately where we our podcast sessions or our date, you know,
Yes.
the drive to the podcast studio or whatever is the date itself. Like, how important is it for our kiddos to see us prioritizing our marriage in that sense? And then how are we able to better love our kids when we're making us a priority?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that, it's hard because we've even talked about, okay, do we want to make a date night routine? And it's every Friday or every other Friday. And there is the obstacle of, okay, well, who keeps the kids,
Sure.
Babysitters that's a challenge. And, grandparents may be busy or uninvolved or, just different things. And so it's just definitely a challenge, but I think that finding it anywhere that you can, but also, our kids know, oh, it's bedtime. Yeah, mom and dad have tea night. Like, we just try to at least have little date night ins, and we've explained to them they're at the age that they understand it's important for mom and dad to just be able to sit and talk uninterrupted, and so
We're starting to finally grasp that. And so therefore I think even now, maybe y'all listening do have a little bit older kiddos or whatever, but I do think that is something that is so important to prioritize on that family piece. And maybe it's convicting to me, right? Because I'm having my own revelation of that, where it's like, I think of family and I think of our kids and I think of, doing this life for them and for their future and improving, what they have coming. But I also think it's like, wait a second, I think it's really, really important for them to see us work on our marriage. And then the other side of that too is, what is wrong with your kids seeing you be successful? Like, mom, particularly, like, I think that mom steps in and says, well, my kids, they just need 100% of my time, right? 100% old adage, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I mean, spend 5 minutes away from your kiddos and they're so happy to see you when you get back. And you're so happy to see them when you get back too. But it's like, how much better would that be if you were out creating something that God laid on your heart to do, or again, whatever it is, workplace, environment that's necessary for life to go around. That's an okay thing. It's an okay thing to do, and I think it's really good for your kids to see it.
yeah, so it gets immersed as well. Whenever they're at the age that, oh, I can have both. I can have both things and be really good at it, just like mom and dad.
Yeah, gosh, Avery, that makes me think of this today. Her and I having a head-to-head, hard-headed discussion. She is my very, very strong little child, and I've always said I never want to break her will, right? But I maybe want to bend it in the right direction a little bit, and I think that can be very tough. But I after our discussion, I said, "Sis, I'm so proud. I want you to be strong-willed. Like, I love the idea of her knowing what she wants, and I see I can have that vision of what she might create in the future, or what she wants to do in life. Like, good luck telling her no, because she'll just say, watch me. And I can't wait for when that happens. But there's this delicate balance between, respecting authority and what God has in order for our home and all that kind of stuff. And it's not some ego trip for me. It's just like, I also know that there's some sort of a balance and a role in harmonizing that. But I get excited for what she might see in her mom, and then what she might be able to achieve, both her and Brindley, because of what you're willing to do when it comes to prioritizing. So I hope this discussion helps you guys get life in order a little bit. We sure don't have it figured out, but some days are better than others, and I hope you guys have a great day.
If you haven't figured out, let us know the key.
Yeah.
Did you know that we spend about a third of our lives in bed? That's over 8 hours a day that our body should be resting, healing, and restoring. But did you ever stop to think about what we're breathing in during that time? Most mattresses today are made with synthetic foams, flame retardants, and chemicals that release toxins into the air, especially while we sleep. That's why we made the switch to My Green Mattress, made with only clean, organic materials. There's no chemical smell, no off-gassing, just a pure supportive mattress that helps your body truly rest and recover the way it was designed to. As a family, that peace of mind is worth everything. If you want to create a healthier home from the inside out, go check out the link in our description. You'll see exactly why we love our green mattress and why we'll never go back. But people always ask us, how do you guys work together? And something that we get asked is like, why should couples and families have businesses together and work together? And Ryan was talking just the other day about a Bible story that he's going to share that
Yep.
just talks about that and the depth of it. So go ahead.
Sure. Well, in the book of the Acts, we heard the sermon one time, and that was the first time I'd heard of it. But there's this couple, and it's I'm going to say it wrong. Priscilla and Aquila. I always try to mess their names up. So Priscilla and Aquila were a couple, and they were tent makers, meaning they were business owners or entrepreneurs, and they actually helped and played an integral role in kind of funding Paul's mission trip to, I think, Corinth and all this kind of stuff. And we heard this sermon one time, and it was just amazing to me. And it for where we were in our life, I hadn't even graduated chiropractic school yet, actually, when we heard it. We were at Passion City Church in Atlanta, Georgia. We'd only been there because we were at a conference. Chiropractors love conferences, so we were all about that life. And we were down there and heard this sermon, and he gave this vivid imagery of Aquila and Priscilla hand in hand, just kind of running forward in life. And he articulated that to what it could mean for us in our life and how we could do that as a couple who had these initiatives, had these goals of developing business at the time. We have more businesses now than we definitely ever even thought of. We were just thinking of having one business at that point in time, but every single one of our businesses having a kingdom purpose and a kingdom initiative. And how I think you and we joke all the time about our codependency. And I think I understand there's a psychological term there, and there's actually maybe some realism of that, but we joke about how codependent we are on one another. And I think God designed it that way. And I used to think of it sometimes as a weakness, but I believe you and I are only our strongest together. And if we were divided, if we weren't hand in hand running into these crazy business ideas that we have all the time, we wouldn't be our best version of ourselves, and we wouldn't be putting the best, product, if you will, forward for what God's laid on our heart for his glory in this world. And so,
yeah, I think that just being able to blend all of that, our work and legacy and our family, there's so many times that our kids go with us to do different things, whether that is, coming to the office because we have to do something, or, any of our other businesses. They're always there, willing to help, wanting to learn the ins and the outs. And so whenever we do that as a family, it's just really cool to just be able to blend that and teach them and show them, just different ways about entrepreneurship. But, one thing that people always say is, I don't know how you guys work together. And I really can't imagine not working with you, because if I didn't understand what you did, not only would I not be able to celebrate the highs with you, but also go through the lows with you. And like, if I had to go through that myself, I know that that would be really, really difficult. And I know we've talked about this before, how a lot of the times, if you're up here and I'm down here, you pull me up, and vice versa. And I think that that is also why it is so good to just have a partner in doing that is your spouse and your best friend, to go through all of those highs and lows with, so that you can experience all of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep laughing because I was thinking about, so y'all, we played softball last weekend, and we're still sore from it. We're getting too old for that, but
Yes.
we got to pick our own walk-up songs, and Ab, as kind of a joke, chose Independent. Is that just what the song is? Yeah. And she says, it's definitely not true. I'm more codependent, C-O-D. And I'm sorry, I just keep laughing about that. Yeah. So catch Abby on the bloopers there with the rap songs. But no, seriously, I think maybe it's not for everyone, but neither is maybe entrepreneurship. We talk about that all the time. I think the more and more we get clear on it, of what this community is and what it's becoming and the people that we're connecting with, it is very clear that it seems like God has us here to provide a sense of community for what oftentimes is a very isolating endeavor, right? Yeah. And so even though we're a couple and we have each other, I can't imagine if I was in entrepreneurship alone without my spouse on board. So maybe spouses, if your husband and or wife is feeling the call, take that to note. Like, it is a very isolating thing to do this alone, even as a couple. So imagine if they're literally in on it on their own. They might have a business partner or whatever, but people don't get it, right? They don't understand why you would do this, why you would leave that job, why you would take this crazy jump. We've talked about those types of concepts, building the boat, or in, this couple's analogy, building the tents. Like, why would you do these things? And it's just, there's no other reason other than it's because it's what God's laid on our heart.
Yeah.
But sometimes the chatter from the world, the loving people that are speaking to you from a place of fear, unfortunately, might be the loudest voice in your spouse's mind. And that becomes daunting at times. And so, like, I am so grateful to have you alongside of me so that we can go through the highs and the lows. If I were in low moments of entrepreneurship or whatever, but without you, that would be excessively difficult. And so I think, if you guys are like us and you're a couple that's maybe you still, again, have the 9-to-5 job or the, the steady W-2 job, but you're feeling this pull towards, it's amazing how many people, we're going back over a month now, back to the expo, how many people we've met that were in that season of life where they're like, I'm feeling this pull. I'm feeling like I should go this direction, but I don't know what that could look like. Joby Martin has an entire sermon series on, it's called The Next Thing. And his whole concept of that, and he's taught it other ways in other places, but he's like, what would you do for the glory of God if you knew you could not fail?
Yeah.
And then follow-up question, like, take a second, pause the video, answer that question. What would you do for God's glory if you knew you wouldn't fail? And then follow-up question, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
And somebody asked me that question, actually, that I coach with recently. And I said, hey, honestly, we are. Like, this is it. We live this crazy life only because we feel like God is calling us to do it.
And, some people think, okay, well, then that must mean that if I do it, it's just all going to be sunshine and rainbows, right? And yes, risk can mean not, it's when you take risk, you're not always going to succeed right away. And, you've probably heard entrepreneurship is just like this, in that there's nothing more true than that. But whenever you take the risk and whenever you do the thing that you feel called to do and it doesn't work out, that doesn't mean all of it doesn't work out. It means that step didn't work out, but it either worked on you or worked for you. Like, there's something that it has done for you to be able to go to the next level. It's kind of like a video game. You know what I mean?
That's a good analogy.
And it's like, even whenever you feel like, okay, I really accomplished that, I just think of Mario. I got the star, and yep. And it's like, there's still another level, because oftentimes you think, okay, well, whenever I get there, whenever I reach that goal, by the time you reach that goal, you've already got 10 more made,
Right.
So taking time to celebrate how far you've come, but also just knowing that just because it's a no, or just because it didn't work out the way you thought it was going to, does not mean it's not working out at all. It just is working out differently and better and greater than what you could even imagine. And I think that there's so much weight in that. We were just talking on the way here. Car rides are our favorite thing ever. And so we were just chit-chatting and, just talking about different things that were going on in a few different of our businesses, and just how, it feels like a closed door, or this one opened, and just the opportunity that really is there. And when you look for it, you can see it. And if you just choose to find it, you can find it. And so even if you feel like it's been closed door after closed door, after, there's opportunity, and just like keep looking. And again, just having your spouse in that is so big. And our kids, like, think about it.
Right. And I think of the legacy that doing the hard thing can actually achieve. I don't want to be too, I guess, harsh in this, but I do want to be convicting, because I feel like if you're listening to this and you're feeling that pull, I don't know that it's my job, right? It's the Holy Spirit's job to lay that conviction upon your heart, but maybe I'm an agent of it. So I'm going to go ahead and say this, but it's like, if you're feeling that pull, you got to step out in it. Like I was talking about, some of the things we were talking about, it's like, hey, that didn't work out well, but as much sleep as I lost over that thing, which maybe I shouldn't have been losing sleep because God's in control, it's all okay, but I'm a human and I worry about things working out or whatever, but it's like, oh, that didn't go the way I thought it would. And yeah, I lost some sleep over that, but I would have lost way more sleep and way more respect for myself if I never would have tried.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate, again, you and couples, spouses who either one or both of you are an entrepreneur. Just keep that in mind. Just be the encourager in your your crazy entrepreneur's mind's life is just like, hey, I'm glad you tried, right? Because there is actually no such thing as fail.
Yeah.
If God laid it on your heart, what would you do unto the glory of God if you knew you could not fail? Then failing actually is not an option.
Right.
If you can answer that question, you say, I would do this. I would go here. I would create that business. I would become this missionary to this place. Like whatever it is, if God's put it on your heart, it's actually impossible for you to fail. Failure and fear of failure is a misnomer that the devil is trying to use to keep you from doing the thing that God needs and wants you to do in this world. I think of all the times where we get, these social injustices and these things that we see where it's like, well, God, why don't you do something? That song says, and I know there's scripture about this, but it's like, he's like, I did. I created you. Mm-hmm. And so you were uniquely made on purpose and for a purpose. And your marriage might be the fulfillment of that purpose, or it might just be the starting catalyst for whatever God has next. Yeah. And so that's my encouragement to you guys that are listening to this. Again, you don't have to go and create a business, start a business. It's not about that. That's a huge thing in Abby and I's life, and we're trying to do everything that we do unto the glory of God so that we can push back against darkness and we can do G-forced, good forced entrepreneurship that actually funds different missions and does different things to, bring God's kingdom here into, revelation on earth. But I really think it's about the legacy that you could also leave for your children beyond that.
Right.
The legacy you could leave for humanity beyond that. Don't let the doubt of the enemy, fear you into complacency, I guess is the harsh way I could say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, like leaving that for your kids. And that's why it is so important for it to be a family journey, because your kids can't only see when you succeed. They have to see when you're in trying times, when you're like, okay, pivot, get creative, figure this out. What is the opportunity? Where is this going to go? They have to see that, because then that's how that they know, because there'll always be problems. There's always going to be an obstacle, but like the personal growth that comes from that is so rewarding. But then it also helps you help others and improve and do all of that. And so just letting your kids be able to see a little bit behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And continue the legacy that you guys all started and built together will be so cool.
How fast do your kids see you fail?
Yeah.
Like how fast can you, again, fail in quotes, because if you're doing what God's laid on your heart, there's no possible way for you to fail. There might be setback, there might be obstacle, there might be challenge to overcome, but it's just setting you up for whatever he has next in store for you. And Jesus is still on the throne. He's 100% in control. So if you step out in faith, and it feels like, oh no, God, you gave me this promise and now I'm not seeing it. It's like, look at Joseph in the Bible. Like what the enemy meant for evil, God turned for good. Yeah. So if you're just in a not very good situation right now, New Testament scripture says, he's working all things together for the good of those that love him. If it's not good right now, it is, because you're on the journey towards good, and good might come in fulfillment in heaven. That's going to be really, really, really good. But it's okay. Right now, it's impossible for you to fail. So whatever's on your heart, whatever you're supposed to be doing, I just encourage you towards it. And we're just crazy enough to be creating this community for people like you that has a crazy thought that you want to run after. We'll encourage you in it. We'll be your cheerleaders. I promise you will not hear me give a negative connotation towards your ideology, because so many people do that to me. Like if it's really God breathed and you tell me, you lead with that, we might try to poke some holes in it together and work around it, mastermind it, so to speak, kind of like what we're going to be doing at the retreat, right? Yeah. Talking about getting couples in a room and saying, what are you working on and what are you doing? And this is a safe place to share your crazy idea that you won't get, made fun of for. Like I have goals and I have thoughts and I have ideas that I share with very few people.
Yes.
Because if I told it to the wrong person, they'd be like, they would plant those seeds of doubt in me. And it's like, we all need this sense of community around entrepreneurship, around kingdom focused initiatives, mission work, whatever that might be, that it's like, I'm almost embarrassed to tell somebody this.
Yeah.
But I think I'm supposed to do this. Oh, cool. How could we make that happen?
Yeah.
I don't need 27 reasons of why it won't work.
Right.
Give me the one why it does.
Yes.
Right. And God, 3 letters, Jesus, right? That's enough. That's enough of a reason for me to run headlong after this thing.
Yeah, I think you're so right. It's just, like we were talking about, a while ago, it's just like quiet, you don't say anything.
Sure.
And unless you're in the right room, because there's so many people that aren't going to understand because it's not their calling to be entrepreneurs or to start something. And so if you feel that call, you have to surround yourself in the right room. And that is something that I will say till I'm blue in the face, is that it matters who you surround yourself with, and it matters who you tell your ideas to.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to share this personal story. I don't think I've shared it publicly. I share it with people in private conversations all the time. But Abby and I went to a mastermind retreat. It was couples focused, and it was this whole concept and idea. And it kind of terrified me to say we were going to do it. I wanted to do it really bad. And I looked over at Abby and I'm like, no way she's going to go for this. And she's like, I think we should go to that. I was like, holy smokes. Okay, we're in. And so we start, this plan. But I knew in the back of my mind that the hesitating thought that I had was like, I don't belong in that room.
right.
Like I knew that we were going to be the smallest business in that room. I knew we were going to be probably the lowest net worth in that room. But then at the same time, I was like, holy smokes, that's actually exactly why I need to be in that room.
Yeah.
And the National Parents Company itself, this podcast, the expo we're doing, the retreats we do, the online community that we're creating for families that want to run after kingdom initiatives, it was born in that room, at that mastermind, in that concept where it was like so much of me was almost resistant to want to do it, but it was like, oh, we have to. And it's like, I think it gets a bad rap when we start looking at it. And we've talked a lot about this in different episodes and stuff when we're saying, well, our kids are priority. Kids are priority. Kids are priority. Yes, priority means priority. That's all it means. It doesn't mean only. It doesn't mean it's the exclusive. Your children are the only thing you do in a 24-hour day, mom. Like you're Abby, and God made you Abby before He made you mom. He also blessed you with some amazing children, and that's a huge priority. And He wants to make sure that we as a family are stewarding them towards the direction that He would have them go. But He's also put it on our heart to create things. And He made you, especially all the women listening, creative. Like you are the only co-creators with God. Like, I mean, we get to play a very small role in that, but y'all actually create other human beings, which is crazy. And you guys, that's an amazing piece of your identity, but it's not everything. And so when we're a couple that's running after something that God's laid on our heart to create, He made us for that, and He made you guys listening for that reason, whatever it is. I can't wait to hear what it is. Please tell me what the thing is that God's put on your heart. I promise you have an encourager and a champion in both Abby and I.
Yeah. And you say that about the mastermind or retreat that we went to. Like, it was the best top 5 experiences ever.
Right.
And just in general, us going to conferences and expos and retreats, so much growth happened, not only for ourselves, like personal, relational, and business. They've always been our favorite things to do.
We love
come
them.
out like so good.
Self-help
you get some
junkies,
yes,
a little bit,
like,
especially when it's aligned with biblical principles.
Right.
So.
And then again, the room that you're in and the people you are around and the personal growth and the time with your spouse, if you do entrepreneurship with your spouse, like all of it was just, it's our favorite times. It's always exciting whenever we get to go.
Yeah. And again, I think along the whole theme of creating something, we go back to Priscilla and Aquila. I don't know what I always try to make their names, but it's always different. But Aquila and Priscilla, like they had created all of that, and then they were able to host things. They were able to have a home. Had this. I almost looked at it as like, and this is how I think of our home too. God's blessed us with the ability to build a home, and we have this farm and all this cool stuff. And it's like the entire intention behind that the whole time has always been like, what could we do with it?
Yeah.
What could we do with it? What would we do with it? And that was what they did. And we look at that in the Bible, and it was like this outpost for the early church. Mm-hmm. And now we have the church. And I actually think, going back to creating something, what if you had the time freedom to be able to host or do or unwind, or, what I'm saying? Like all these things, because maybe your business permits you to work from home.
Yeah.
We talk about entrepreneurship all the time. I love the idea of entrepreneurship over like small business. Small business, I feel like you just wind up, you're working 100-hour weeks, right? Inside of a small business that is so ultimately dependent upon you. When we talk about this, I love talking about and helping couples discern and find like, how could we do this where we increase our time freedom. So now we can
Yeah.
even be better at prioritizing our children. But then our home could become this center and this outpost of maybe our local church where we get to host things through it.
Yeah.
And unto the glory of God. That's one of my favorite phrases. Like one of the favorite things I say is like, we've got this now, and it's for God's glory, whatever comes of it.
Yeah.
And God, yes, is on the table. You just tell me what question I'm answering. And then it's just like hand in hand, you and me, you guys listening, your couple, your husband, your wife, whatever that looks like for you, running after the thing that God's laid on your heart.
From the bottom of our hearts, we want to say thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with someone you know and leave a review. By doing so, we're able to grow this community of amazing people just like you and raise a generation of children that know God and do His will on earth. We'll see you next time.
This is the Natural Parents Podcast with Ryan and Abby Hukin.